Here we are at Club Street in Singapore. The name of this street is because of the Chinese clubs in early Singapore history. There were plenty of clubs such as the Ki Lam Club. It's a Straits Chinese club. Well, it was opened in 1891. There were other clubs such as the Tri Lanteng Club. I mean, a lot of these really was for the Chinese commercial businessmen to socialize, maybe do some business on the side. And there's even exclusive and prestigious clubs. They were all located here on Club Street. Today, of course, they are mainly F&B, and it's still named as Club Street, and it's actually a very popular place for artists to come and sketch and to paint and so on. It's a beautiful place. It's worth a walk if you are in Singapore, for a tour. Around here, there's also the Amoy Street, which I like as well. An Siang Hill, which is nearby, Banda Street and Buntat Street. Further down, of course, there's roads such as Cross Street and so on, where there's a lot more commercial building today. On the other side, towards Chinatown, there's the U Ton Seng Street, which of course is part of Singapore Chinatown. Well, we are on the edge of Chinatown, actually, or in fact, we just crossed the road. It's actually near Chinatown already. So Club Street, it's worth a walk, explore lots of F&B and drinking places, coffee, cafe and so on. Worth an afternoon stroll. So today I came out to play with the WeekendSketchers. We're gonna sketch this restaurant. This is Merci Marcel at Gamil Lane. It's actually a very hot day, but I'm glad I came out to play. I brought my drone as well, and I took some shots, which you can see. It's tucked at the corner, in fact at the end of Club Street, and here we are, the WeekendSketchers. From my drone, I'm just this is probably about 60-70% of them. There are some spread out, some other spots where they are sketching from different angle. Hello, haven't seen you for a while. How are you?
I'm late.
You're never late. You're on time, fashionably.
On time.
Always. So as for me, I did a pencil line base of the view where I'm seated, and I'm just gonna keep it easy today. It's not gonna be very precise, but I'm gonna have a lot of fun splashing colors, which is what I love to do. Well, one of the key idea why I put on a pencil line before I lay down my ink is because I haven't been really accurate lately. Well, basically lack of practice. So, and the idea of pencil line, which is what I used to do a long time ago, is to kind of lay down broad shape and size and ratios, and I'm kind of in my head judging the length versus the height, the angle versus the gradient to the paper, how I want to put the lines and so on and so forth. So the very lightly drawn pencil line is a guide to my ink line. Of course, that I may find myself making some mistakes and with the pencil, and then hence correcting it with the ink, but that's okay. That's just a guide. But the whole idea is to be allowing my ink to then flow freely and boldly, and to show some confidence in the process. Now, if your pencil line is tentative and you ink it with a very much more confident sort of line on top, your drawing will look so much better because confidence shows through in all your drawing. These days I hardly do this technique. I straight draw with my pen because I'm just being lazy and probably a little bit overconfident. But if you saw the previous video I made, sometimes it's good to change your process. It's like changing your recipe every now and then to try out a new angle of the recipe, of your process, and you see whether you can tweak and learn something from the change. A change is good because it allows your brain to be rewired for the purpose of learning. And I think it's always important to kind of keep in mind that art is really a learning process, it's a journey, and the outcome is not as important as the journey itself, and it's important to enjoy the process and have fun. If you're going to get a fantastic outcome and you hate doing it or it was not enjoyable, then why do it, right? So it's much more important to be enjoying of the process, and find a process that you really really like. Sitting next to me was Stephanie, and she's she always says she's OCD, and you can see her drawing shows that with a lot of details, and she couldn't let the detail go. And I tell her I'm ADHD because I just can't stand the detail. Art can be made by people of all sorts of conditions, OCD, ADHD, or whatever it could be. But it's a process that's to be enjoyed, and in some ways you don't have to fight your nature, and you just enjoy it. So you can see the lines that I'm making, it's just all over the place, it's just a mess. But well, in some ways I would say, who cares? I enjoyed it, and that's my art, that's my sketch. You can also see that the sketch is sort of like in two halves. The one on the right is a lot more detailed. The one on the left clearly is a little bit more abstract and messy and chaotic. You will see that that's how I intend to paint it as well. The focus is on the building, the restaurant, the facade, and not so much on the tree and the truck that's on the left. But I put some emphasis on the lane, the street name. Of course, I lay down my name now, and you can see that the whole sketch is sort of coming through. There's some accuracy to the ratio of the facade, but there's just no accuracy to the truck and the pots and trees and so on. So, okay, putting down the date 2023, the year June 06, 11th, the day for today. Okay, the way I like to paint today is to go loose, go free, and splash with lots of water. And I want you to see that I'm actually having a lot of fun splashing colors and just whacking down the various colors. There's a bit of a thinking process behind it, of course, but the whole idea really though is trying to create a bit of a rhythm, a bit of a splash, and of course it needs to look very very loose in terms of the sketch, because if I want it detailed, it would look of course it would look very with lots of detail and so on. To me it's not going to be fun. That's just not my style, and it's just not me. Oftentimes we forget that watercolor is basically water. You could tilt the sketchbook a little bit to flow, but I've realized that when I'm sketching with very small sketchbook like this, is just slightly above, slightly more than A5. It's a hot press, apparently 100% cotton. I'm not so sure, but it does feel cotton. It's a Chinese-made sketchbook. I'm trying it for the first time. I don't really recommend it, but it's for me, it's good to kind of try new material, new process, and it just gives you some different results every now and then. But in this case, it's quite smooth, and it's quite nice. The scheme I'm going for, in terms of color scheme, is actually yellow-purple to some extent. But of course, yellow I can extend it to a bit of a greenish, and purple I can extend it to a bit of a reddish part of it. But you could see that I'm splashing with my brush, and tapping, and I'm just dropping water and drops and so on, like as if there's just plenty of mistakes. It would be nice if I can make it look like a sketch, but you could also see millions or thousands of mistakes in it. It makes it look fun. Well, at least that's how I see it. I know not everybody will agree with me that it's a sketch that they will do, but it's somewhat something that you gotta keep your mind open. All you need to do is just be out there, participate, enjoy the process, and have a bit of a strategy going in, have a bit of a recipe in your head in terms of how you attack the scenery. And if someone can see this place and say, oh, I know this place, this is Merci, Marcel, Gamil Lane, that's all I need, basically, right? I mean, after all, if you really want an accurate portrayal of the place, you can just take a photograph with your phone. But if you want to interpret it with a lot of fun injected to it, you only have to sketch it, like what I'm doing now. So, as you can see, lots of green with a tinge of yellow. Even brown is dirty yellow. So we're still in the pockets of purple yellow in some ways. Drop in a bit of dark. There's a bit of neutral tint thrown in with some purple. And I'm just trying to be as accurate, in quote, as I can I'm going to make some mistake sometimes on purpose, but if you can, sort of crisscross your light and dark and so on, create a bit of a rhythm, I think your sketch will look just okay, and you look just fine. I intend to go dark and darker and put some dark spots, but I don't intend to overdo it with too many dark spots. I'm just going to drop in points of dark, points of black, points of really dark spots to sort of give it a bit of a rhythmic spell from the sketch perspective. So as I was painting across the signboard of Gemmill Lane, and both in Chinese and English, I was thinking, I should just take my white gel pen and go over it because the sign is in white. But you know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna go with the flow and enjoy the sketch and not worry too much about specific details like that. And for now, I'm just gonna go with a little bit more dark, used sparingly. My darks are going to just highlight where I think they should be. Shadows, maybe push certain things out or in or back, front or back, depending on how the sketch would be. Some figures, dark shadows, and so on. The other thing I wanted to keep in mind is to make sure that I don't overwork my paper. One of the things that you got to remember is that you want to have economy of touches on the paper. I really cannot mention too much, say too much about this. You really have to remember that if you use very good paper, you can go over it more, but if you don't use a very good sketchbook, they do cotton ball very easily. As you can see, the dark spots, the splatters I put in is again the statement of fun sketch. And I do use a lot of water. You can see the paint does spread. And finally, I'm going to use my opaque colors: opaque orange, opaque yellow, opaque scarlet red. They are cadmiums, basically. They're cadmium colors, and most cadmiums are basically opaque color. They're very strong. They gotta be used very sparingly, and so that it doesn't look too ghastly. Okay, we're about done with the sketch. I don't really want to work too much. The left hand side, I'm going to leave it as blank as possible with just some lines to state it. From a focus point perspective, I just want to make sure that the eyes go straight to the right hand side and where the buildings are, and that should be where the focus should be. And more splatter, some green, some dots here and there. There's no way my brush can make all those dots by itself, but if I splatter it, it's all natural splatters, natural shapes, very organic. I kind of love that. So here it is, the finished sketch while it's still wet. While I wait for the others to finish up, I did a little doodle of chitsing, and I mangled the sketch, but I wanted to be very bold with the color. Here it is. So it was a great day out with the Weekend Sketchers. It's a subgroup of the Singapore Urban Sketchers. We were sketching Merci Marcel at the end of Club Street, more accurately on Gemmill Lane. I hope you enjoyed this episode with my commentary, and I hope to see you next week or wherever the next video is going to be. Here's a drone shot for you to enjoy the space at the edge of Club Street and right next to Chinatown in Singapore.